So, moving on. So you've now seen the tools pulled together in Connect. And so let's take a peek at some of these specialized tools. Rebekah Wallace, our Bugwood Images Coordinator and EdMaps Data Coordinator, as well as our Associate Director, who's also the Director of the Southeast Regional IPM Center, Joe LaForest, are going to talk about our content systems coming up. So those systems include Bugwood Images and delivered through its 5 core image sites, forestry images, insect images, weed images, IPM images, and invasive.org. Those 5 sites make up Bugwood Images. But also we have Bugwood Presents, Bugwood Video, and of course the IPM resource database, which Connect is heavily involved in now. Rebekah's been an integral part of Bugwood for the past 15 years. She brings a background in weed science. She keeps the image system alive from upload, judgment, data entry, review. She keeps that active. And she manages much of the data behind EdMaps as well. She does records review, verifier training, and overall tool support. So Rebekah is here to kick us off with our content systems.
Thank you for that introduction, Debbie. They're running a weed eater outside my office window, so if you hear some mechanical noise, that's what's going on right now. So today, as Debbie said, we're going to be talking in this kind of big block about our content systems. I'm going to be specifically addressing the Bugwood Images database, the presentation database, and the Bugwood Video database. And I'm going to kind of follow a theme of upload, find, and share to kind of walk you through how these systems work. So the contributors for these content systems can kind of be a wide variety of people. Mostly are professionals and experts from academia, agencies, nonprofits, museums, centers, laboratories. If you look on the right, this is kind of our list of our top photographers in our image database. Gerald Holmes, I see you in the attendee list, so you are right at the top of our photographer contributors. But we also have images from individuals as well as entire groups like the North Carolina State University Herbarium, the Pest and Diseases Images Library from Australia, Forrest and Kim Starr contributed images from their own private company, and so forth. So we have a lot of professional and expert contributors, but our users can be anybody. So our users come from wide-ranging backgrounds, as well as from just personal individuals, as well as people who are these professionals trying to make books and guides and articles, PowerPoints and so forth, all the way to people trying to publish books and articles, things online, things for public consumption as well. So the image system, as Debbie said, it's 5 websites that are fed from the same image database. So the forestry images, insect images, IPM images, weed images, and invasive.org are where you can find all of these images that are contributed by our various professional sources. The reason we have 5 image websites is because these images are not just categorized by this is the species in the image. They are categorized as well by grouping things together that kind of make sense for each of these fields. So if you're looking for images relating to cotton, it might not be cotton itself, but things relating to cotton. You can find all of those images kind of lumped together, as well as being able to find them individually by the subjects in there. So we have a wide variety of ways to kind of group these images together to help people find what they need for their particular interests. Invasive.org is a little bit specialized in that it has additional content besides just images. there's additional content associated with invasive.org. So it's also pulling from the image database. And through these, you can find any of the images on any of the websites. It's just which of these are particularly tailored to specific fields. So at the beginning, Chuck played the video of kind of through the ages of our various websites. So the image websites over the last year to year and a half have been updated. So this is what the Forestry Images website looked like prior to its most recent update. It's very text heavy. However, you can very easily get to those various groupings, like I mentioned before, by clicking on, okay, well, I'm interested in foliage feeding insects, or I'm interested in conifers, or I'm interested in mammals, and so forth. We didn't take any of that away, but we did update it. It looks nicer. I'm going to say that it looks nicer. You can all those categories still exist. They haven't gone away, so you can still get to them like you could before. Just things look a little bit more modern and nice. And then we've also made it a little bit easier for contributors. So at the bottom of the page in the footer, that contribute images link will appear everywhere that footer exists. And then if you're in one of our subjects, so in this case, alfalfa mosaic virus, right at the top under the name alfalfa mosaic virus, you have your contribute images button that will take you to the file uploader so that you can contribute images. As Debbie said, as Chuck said, as Joe's going to say, these are quality over quantity. So there are some situations where we have hundreds of images of a subject, but we are curating them to make sure that these images are in focus, that they're representing something that is relevant to the kind of overall image database goal. With regards to forestry, insects, entomology, agriculture, and so forth. So previously we had our filtering options kind of tucked away in a drawer, so that filter tab was on the pages and you could open it and apply filters and then close it and see the images that fit that filtering that you added. We did update that so that on normal computer monitor size screens, you will see the filter pane is now a permanent fixture. If you're on something like a smartphone, maybe a tablet, it might be reduced down just so you can still see the images and access the filtering at will. But now as you're filtering, you're applying filters. So in this case, I'm looking at conifer trees. As I apply, if I'm looking for a specific species or if I'm looking for a specific view or things like that, as I apply the filters, it's going to reduce down from almost 5,000 images and go down as you apply those filters. On the image detail page, so I found an image I like. I want to look at more information about it. A lot of this page, you'll notice, is a link. So if I want to see more images of cowpea weevil, I can click on the subject name and it'll take me to all the images we have for that subject. I can see more images by the photographer. I can see more images that from people or accounts that have their organization listed as Clemson. I can see more images where soybean is the host. On this page, you'll notice that in 2 different locations, it tells you how to cite this image. So these images are freely available for educational purposes, for personal purposes. And we just ask that you cite the photographer for these images, and it tells you how to cite it there. Underneath the image, there's some buttons. Request permission via Lightbox. The Lightbox is essentially your shopping cart, except as long as it's for educational or personal usage, it's free. Free to use with citation. When you click request permission via Lightbox, it's going to ask you what size. You choose your size, and then in the top right-hand corner where you see my smiling face, next to that is a box. That is your shopping cart, your Lightbox. You can also save to collection, and Joe will go over collections a little bit during his presentation later. You can download the image. You can copy the image to your clipboard on your computer, or you can, from here, share this image. So if you really like this picture of cowpea weevil and you want to make sure everyone sees how amazing this picture of cowpea weevil is, you can share it with the options available under there. And then, as I mentioned before about categorizing things more, you have we have under the commodity and settings, taxonomy, curation information, there's more categories available so you can see how we're sorting these things out. I mentioned requesting images. So I am a photographer in our system. Gerald Holmes is a photographer in our system. We have a lot of great photographers. I was going through our attendees list and I was like, oh, they're a photographer and they're a photographer. I saw Nancy Lowenstein. She's a photographer in our system. So as you get requests for these images, as I mentioned, for educational purposes, for personal purposes, when those requests are made under those classifications, those are automatically approved. If someone makes a commercial request, so you can see here that I've had a couple commercial requests recently, and they say they're providing why they're making these requests. If I click on the ID number, what will come up, there we go, is the images that were part of that request, and then from there I can make this I can make decisions on this. Now previously this was just an email system. This manage usage request is fairly new. It's within the last several months, and this is housed, as the screenshots will show, this is housed in the Connect system under the content, so you can manage your usage requests for images here now. And it makes it just so much easier than it was before. You can, with a click of a button, say approve or deny for these commercial requests. So how are people requesting to use these images? So this is just a picture I took the other day. These are just some of the ways that our images are being used. So these are books and field guides and all kinds of ways that people are using these images. So in each of these books, at least one of the images from our database has been requested for commercial use in this case. And then as well, we have images requesting to be used by programs like the Wisconsin DNR Forestry for talking about, in this case, brownleaf bittersweet for, their article on that. We also have images being requested for use in social media. So this is a video, and in it they're talking about lance quarters. And as you can see, they provided photo credits for the photos they used in there. And then as well, the images are also often requested for use for print news articles, as well as in this case, this was a video news report about emerald ash borer being spotted in Denver. This is not today, obviously. Discovered June 17th. This is not breaking news. I'm not breaking anybody's news here. So these are just some of the few ways that images are being requested to use. And they're being requested all over. So that's the most simple way that images are being, provided to the world and how they're being used. We also have some advanced projects that have more interest in than just providing images and letting them be available. So in this case, this is the UGA Fish Lab. They came to us and said that they have images on how to identify, how to help people identify fish age from otoliths. So they're like little ear bones. And so they have all these images where they know the age of the fish, and so they know what that ear bone looks like at the time. And in this case, they wanted these to be available so that other people who have this same interest would be able to easily find these images. But having them available through our image database was just one step. So we worked with them on a website to make that available. So it's a specific topic website. So in this case, it's certain species, and it's just pictures of these otoliths. And so they also have their own specific filters as well, so that the age can be specified, location, structures, and so forth. So this is a kind of an advanced project that we worked on with them, and we continue to work on with them. And this is just one of many that I wanted to showcase. So just some quick numbers. So we have over 238,000 accounts in the kind of Bugwood environment. We have almost 3,000 photographers. As I said, I'm seeing several in our attendees box, so that's very exciting for me. And then over 22,000 accounts have requested to use images. We have over 333,000 images in the database covering 29,000 subjects. And I just did a kind of a small sampling of some of these numbers. So from 2020 to 2025, we've had over 13.6 million views. We've had 71,000 images requested across 10,000 batches of images, and we've had over 1.3 million downloads. So these images are definitely being viewed, they're definitely being requested, they're definitely being downloaded and used. So this resource, a lot of people have found it to be a very good source for images. We have some image stats available. So right now, these image statistics are available under images.bugwood.org. So if you haven't gone to images.bugwood.org and you're one of our photographers, if you go there and you click on stats, you'll be able to see some of the statistics that are available. Then what you can see here is just for me, again, from 2020 to 2025, this is just me showing you that I've had, these types of images have been highly viewed by the public. You can see for the top 40 images, which I like to look at this because I get an idea of, okay, what is the public seeing? And every now and then I wonder, how did they get to that photo? Why is that such a popular photo? So I find this personally interesting, and I bet our photographers would as well, to see what images of theirs are being highly viewed. But there's also the images requested and the images downloaded. So you can get an idea, and it's interesting to compare between those, what images are being viewed versus what are being requested versus what are being downloaded. So we have a couple of questions. I'll stop here just briefly to answer some of those questions about the image database before I move on to the two other databases. Curious as to why weed images is not titled plant images. Joe, would you like to answer that quickly?
Sure. It comes down to money and purpose. We've developed a lot of tools. We only develop a tool when someone comes to us and say, hey, I'm doing extension and outreach to educate people about this stuff. I'd like to have a resource that does this. Plant Images would be a wonderful website, and we'd love to go for something like that. Unfortunately, weeds are the problems that people kept encountering. A much more concise list than all of the possible plants we could have images of. And we worked with the Weed Science Society of America in order to make that possible. It's not that we wouldn't mind doing something larger. It's just that given where our funding comes from and what we had options for, it made sense just to stick with weed images.
All right, Joe, and I'm just going to throw this to you again because I think you were part of this discussion before I came around. You've been here a little longer than I have. We've got some questions of downloads versus requests, describing the difference between them, as well as like what's the benefit of using one versus the other. So I'm just going to say, from my point of view, I always recommend people request to use it. There's a documentation of that request so that if you do use that image, we're documenting at that moment the image was requested, what the permission status of that photo was. So you can always go back to it and say, yes, I had permission to use this photo in this way. You can also come back to your requests if you've lost track of who the photographer was for that image was. You can see, go back through your requests and see, okay, well, this image belongs to this photographer. But Joe, for you specifically, I was thinking you could answer why there's a download button at all.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to our users. We love our users. They have unique and interesting ways that they want to consume the content. This was the user group of, I am a county agent. I'm an extension specialist. I need to get this presentation done. I'm currently working in my off hours, getting my presentation for tomorrow ready. And while I would love to go through and pick all these pictures and make requests, that takes more of my time. I am going to cite the pictures as you indicated. You've made it clear it's in 2 places on the site. Great. Just give me the picture so I can throw up my PowerPoint. The other feature we ended up building in that a lot of people don't know about is if you go through and pick all the pictures you want to make a request, one of the ways you can download the pictures is as a PowerPoint. The images are already there and the citation. All you had to do was pick them, fill out the form, submit it, and as long as you marked that it was going to be educational use, you're going to get permission for it. So it's more just satisfying user needs. I personally encourage everyone to make requests. The reason for that is the photographer and the contact for the photos then gets that notification, that stuff for their stats. We all have to fulfill some impact reporting at the end of the day. And sometimes if you're having a rough day, it's nice to look down through the details of an image use request and go, oh, they liked my picture enough, they're going to put it in this guide, or it's being used in these routine trainings. So download was put there for convenience. I highly recommend a request just because it's the least we can do for these photographers that really make some great content available.
Thank you, Joe. And then, so we've also, is there a peer review process for the images being contributed? So we don't have a expert on staff who will be able to say, yes, this photo of this thrips species is in fact this thrip species. To a degree, we're relying upon the photographer's expertise in that area. So that's why a lot of our contributors are from federal, state agencies. They're from academia. These are images coming from museums and herbaria and so forth. So if there is some concern about these images, they won't be uploaded to begin with. And then if someone comes to us later and says, oh, this was misidentified, we do go through and we check the original information associated with the image to see, did we have an error when we did the data entry? And if that's not the case, we'll go to the photographer, confer with them. If we can't contact the photographer for some reason, then we will pull the image as kind of an abundance of caution situation. So there's a couple checks along the way. How long does it usually take between an image request and an approval? So if it is a educational personal request, you get approved automatically. That's the agreement that the photographers enter into when they contribute their images. With a commercial request, it's anywhere from the same day to possibly never, because there are situations where the photographer did not update their email with us. So that request isn't getting to them currently. There are some situations where the photographer retired and did not update their email address to their personal email address. Or in some cases, we do know that some of our photographers have passed on since they've contributed images to us. Is there a public domain option available for photos? So I believe on our image usage page, we talk about the licensing. So if you go to any of our image websites, so again, forestry images, insect images, so forth, at the top of the page, near your light box and your person icon, there's image usage, and it talks about the licensing that exists with those. All right, I'm going to move on to our other systems real quick so we don't fall too far behind. So Bugwood Presents, imagine this, our presentation database. From the homepage, you can see we have where you can browse presentations, but we also have where you can start uploading. So again, most of these presentations are from professionals and experts, and often, again, associated with academia or a federal or state agency, so forth. So again, these are expert presentations. When you click on start uploading, it takes you to a file uploader. And again, it asks you a couple questions, and you can contribute your presentation for upload. There is, again, a judging session where someone physically goes through these slides to make sure that they're appropriate and should be included. And there's also a data entry portion as well to cover, okay, what subjects does it cover, what commodities does it cover, and so forth. Once those presentations are available, you can browse those presentations. As I mentioned, we have that drawer filter option where you can narrow results by subjects, by commodity, and so forth. So this drawer filtering option will narrow down the presentations that you are seeing. Once you find a presentation you're interested in, you can click on it to open it, see who created it. So in this case, Janet Hurley created this presentation on Introduction to IPM for Texas Schools. And so there's a little bit of information about, title and what language this is in and what locations it covers, descriptions, and so forth. You can use the arrows to go through the presentation just to get an idea of what the content of the presentation is. If you are the author of the presentation and you're logged in, you'll actually have an additional little bit on the slide for you there. So you'll see that you can replace this presentation. So if this instead said Introduction for IPM for Texas Schools 2023, and then Janet made a new presentation in 2026, instead of deleting this and uploading a new one, she could replace this presentation. So she can elect to retain kind of the URL for this presentation and replace it with a new one with updated information. In the top right of that presentation, there was an icon that you can use to embed this presentation in a website. So if Janet has a school IPM website and she wants to have these presentations exist on her website, she can use this code to embed those presentations on her website. And then again, as she updates them from year to year, what she'll be able to do is just replace them in Bugwood Presents, and the updated version will exist on her website and anywhere else that they are embedded. You can also download this presentation. So if you have your own kind of school IPM program for your state, and Janet's doing a lot of great things that you want to present as possibilities or options for your state, you can download it and incorporate those slides into your presentation. We also have Bugwood Video. So this is a database for videos. It's kind of the least developed of our database websites, but we are going to be updating this soon. These videos are intended to be raw footage. They're intended to be B-roll. So those videos where someone is doing a voiceover as you see this beautiful, in this case, we'll say soybean field. These are the types of videos that can be used for that. They're background videos for those types of purposes. And the reason we made Bugwood Video is so that these videos are intended to be downloaded, shared, and used. So there's a lot of great video databases out there, but these are specifically intended for the reuse and downloading. And so you can contribute to the video database, same on the front page, the same as you can from the presentation database. So Joe talked about impact before, and Debbie talked about impact and statistics. So I mentioned the top kind of 40 photos and statistics available for the image database on images.bugwood.org. There are additional statistics available through Connect Statistics. So in this case, we're looking at my statistics for the 2025 year, and I've narrowed it down. So in this chart, you can turn on and off the various categories. So we're just looking at content systems here. And you can see here that I've got this many images available and page views and download requests and so forth. And as you update the filters, you're also changing the numbers that are a little bit further down the page. So on the right-hand side, these are my statistics for the image database and my statistics for Presents, just to give you an idea. So again, these are all available through the Connect website. Everything connects together. And content coming soon. So I mentioned we're going to be updating our Bugwood Presents and our Bugwood video databases. We're going to modernize them to make them look just a little bit better. And we're also going to be adjusting the filtering to make them more in line what you're seeing with the image database filtering. We're going to be moving all content management to Connect. So if you want to upload images, review your images, upload presentations, and so forth, that will soon be moved to Connect. So you'll have one place to go to if you're going to be, I'm going to be uploading presentations and resources and so on and so forth. You can do that all through the Connect website. We're also going to be removing our remaining statistics to Connect. So I showed some of them exist on images.bugwood.org. We're going to be moving those to Connect as well. And we're going to be updating and moving training articles to our knowledge base. And Caroline's going to be going over how EdMaps is using the knowledge base a little bit later in her presentation. All right, so I covered images questions. Are there any questions about the other database or remaining questions about images? So, I see there was some chatting going on, but I think that's being covered in there. All right, well, if we don't have any additional questions, oh, there is a question. Okay, is or would it be possible for those making an EdMaps report to have their photos added to Bugwood Images? So currently, I, as a super admin, apparently there's levels of admin. I am a super admin. I can go through the images in EdMaps by species, and I can request for those images to be added from the EdMaps database into the Bugwood Images database. It's reliant upon the person I am requesting to respond to that request. We're not just automatically importing them. If there is a particular species that you would like for me to look for those images and request those to be added, just send me an email and let me know, because I do that a few times a year. I'll go through and say, oh, we need images of this, that, or the other, and I'll see if there's anything in the EdMaps database that the reporters would welcome those being added to the Bugwood database. We have moved some species images that way. Will or is Connect accessible with our Bugwood ID? So yes, as Debbie and Chuck talked about, you log into Connect, you log into forestry images, you log into EdMaps. Those are all the same email and password now. You do not have separate logins for each of those. So this is, there's a question about accessibility, and that's going to have to be answered by someone else, because we are in the middle of UGA and their recommendations on accessibility, I believe. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes. So with the presentations that are currently up there, many of those were uploaded years and years and years ago. We are in the process of, as everyone is, going through what materials are being made available, and anything that's put up in the future ends up doing those checks to make sure it's accessible. So the ones that are currently up there would likely need some work in order to meet the current standards. That's always the fun with accessibility standards. They keep shifting over time. 5 years from now, I'm going to bet there's another accessibility standard, because everyone will have learned lessons from where they are now. So we're still working through as a platform, especially for presentations. Doing those checks gets to be fun and exciting. I know everyone's also having the fun and exciting time of PDFs and accessibility. It's a incremental progress, still getting all those things up and available.
Okay, and then is there a tag for the setting of the photo of the subject, such as fish photos taken underwater versus from the surface versus removed from water? We don't get quite that specific. We do have image views, so you can specify if you're looking for, like, well, talk about fish. If you're looking for a lateral view, a dorsal view, an anterior view, a posterior view, a close-up view, we do have those types of descriptors available, so that you can specify angles and things like that of the subject. But noting that sort of situation, we don't currently have. That would be reliant on the person including that in their comments or descriptor of the photo.
The closest we do get to is image type. If I have a field image, I'm expecting this to be somewhere out in the field. Now that won't tell me underwater versus not, because someone could be holding the fish in the field. Look what I caught. Laboratory, that's going to be out of a natural setting. This is where someone had it, they brought it in. Museum is going to be pure preserved specimens. Micrographs, well, that's going to be something much smaller. So there are some settings for it. You've probably picked up the gist. Any feature we have is because there were enough people going, you know what? I really need the ability to be able to know that I have pictures of this. If we spent time figuring out all possible things someone could think of ever having for an image to separate stuff out, we'd never have made anything that we've made now. It also means that sometimes we go back when someone says, one request we had, I'd like to know when there's a person in the picture, because from a communication standpoint, sometimes I want a person, and knowing that I can use the photo with a person in there to give more of a human interest angle, as opposed to, hey, there's a python. So we ended up working through how we would deal with that and how much that would take. We always love feedback from our users, because that's the only way our systems get better and we come up with new products for what people want to have to help their extension and outreach.
Okay, and then one final question. Will new images we load to Bugwood need to be accessible? I believe that's also something we're still in the process of working out, because we do have, again, over 333,000 images.
So the images, that's the easy part. Because with an image, to show online and be accessible, you need alt text. Well, after we provided all the data, I can provide alt text for an image. There is always a fun debate. What alt text is the best alt text? And get together at some in-person meeting when there's snacks and good food available. Love to have that discussion with anyone who wants to go into the ins and outs of what makes good alt text.
All right. Well,